Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Beantown Beatdown. Matthew Bars.
Gabe Thomas.
Yep. I'm actually drying out, because I had a lot to drink going into New Year's Eve.
Okay, so
Yeah, so
kicking back with some tea.
Yeah, this is actually strawberry melon mixed with iced tea and lemonade from Brisk.
All right.
Yeah, mixed it. So
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers to that. Well, first, congratulations are in order because your San Francisco 49ers are heading to the Super Bowl.
That's right. Hell yeah.
Yeah, taking on Kansas City.
So proud of my hometown team.
Oh, yeah. So, you guys haven't won a Super Bowl in years. So,
I know. Yeah.
Also, Jimmy G, who used to play for us, he's turned out pretty well.
Yep.
And meanwhile, my Patriots are not in the play.
I know.
Yeah, Michael's like, wait a minute, Gabe, what's going on here?
Wrong for so many reasons.
Yeah, but so for me, I won't be watching the Super Bowl. I won't be attending a Super Bowl party or anything like that. For me, it's just going to be watch J-Lo and Shakira, jack off, and then do something else.
So you won't even watch the end. That's sore losers.
No, it's a thing. Like unless my Patriots are in the Super Bowl, I have no interest. I mean, I'll watch it. I'll watch it for like the Super Bowl halftime performance, and then after the performance, it's like okay, done.
Okay, all
right.
Fair enough, I guess.
Yep. So now let's get into it. First and foremost, the return of Conor McGregor.
Yep, indeed.
Yep, knocked out Donald Cowboy Cerrone in the first round too. It was like 43. Last fight lasted like 43 seconds, man.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, left
brought the heat, brought the thunder.
Yeah, left kick knockout to the head, and the fight was over.
Wow.
Yeah, I think. Conor, he's at welterweight now. That's the weight he's fighting at right now, welterweight, which is 170 pounds. And I think Conor, he still has some ways to go before they put him in a title fight. I say give him 3 more fights, and then put him in a title fight, a world title fight. But then again, the UFC, they want to try and make some money and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
So, I mean, they might put him in a title match quickly. I mean, personally, I would kind of wait on that because also for the fighters who are next in line and stuff. So, but then again, there's also the rumor that Conor wants to fight Manny Pacquiao in a boxing match.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, it really does, it's going to be interesting to see where Conor McGregor goes from here. I mean, he got his payday coming back to the UFC. He could get another big boxing payday by fighting Manny Pacquiao. Well, of course, there's also the rumor that that Conor and Floyd will fight each other again and stuff. And I mean, you and I, we were at that Floyd and Conor fight, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, and also Holly Holm on the undercard beat Raquel Pennington in a rematch. Lackluster, boring fight, but nonetheless, still a victory. Oh, that's my brother texting me here. I gotta put this on silent or vibrate or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Conor McGregor, he's back, and hopefully we get to see him be a champion again in the UFC.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now, moving on, we're going to get into a little debate here. Who would win a street fight between Mike Tyson and Bruce Lee?
Right.
Yeah. Now, here's my thing. Because now, in a boxing match, of course, it would go to Mike Tyson. You know, because like Bruce's Jeet Kune Do. I mean, it did have some boxing in it. I mean, his boxing style is really mirrored after Muhammad Ali. I mean, well, it's mirrored after a few people because he studied not only Muhammad Ali, but he studied Jack Dempsey. He studied Jack Johnson. Jersey Joe Walcott. You know, I mean, he had like a library of boxing films.
Wow. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So. But I think in a street fight, you know, I think here's what would happen. I think, you know, and these are both guys in their primes. You know, like Mike Tyson in his prime, like in the from the mid to late '80s. You know, against like Bruce Lee of the '70s up until his death. You know, like Mike Tyson was like, you know, he'd be coming in, you know, jabbing, you know, doing the peekaboo style, and then Bruce. Then I think Bruce would like keep him at bay with like with a sidekick. You know what I'm saying? Because the sidekick is like he compared the sidekick to the left jab in boxing. You know, because it's like because the name of the Jeet Kune Do is the way of the intercepting fist, and you know he demonstrated it one time in an episode of Longstreet. You know, he said to the guy, "Hey, come and try and touch me," and then he did a side kick to the kneecap, and he said, to reach me, you have to move towards me. And you know, the peekaboo style, it's all like forward, it's going forward, going side to side. And Mike would just, I mean, he'd be eating side kicks to the midsection and also to the knees. And then, you know, Bruce would also you know, he would come in with some elbows, you know, some fists, you know, and plus you know, that thing where he would
say elbow. Really just powerful in his fighting style. Yeah,
and also like he would also do that you know how like in Jeet Kune Do, well, let me show you. It's like like if he, the thing is like if you throw a punch, like Bruce had this thing called it's like stop hit. It wouldn't be like stop hit and you like stop and then hit. It'd be like yeah, so you like catch and then hit you with a back. Well, actually, I don't think he would do the finger jab because, like, you know, when Mike was doing like the peekaboo thing, you know, like the peekaboo style. I mean, it's like
his whole like mouth area is completely like protected and like you know, like you know, because like that's like his strongest part is like right in here. So yeah, you would want to go after that. Like either he you know would punch it or you know knowing Mike, he could also bite it. You know.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, in a street fight, let's just put that out there.
Yeah. Plus, you know, the thing is, Mike Tyson with that style, I mean, you could barely hit him with a jab. You know, like when he was at his peak, when he was with Rooney and all that, I mean, you couldn't even hit him with a jab because, you know, he just like and you know, as soon as he ducked, you know, he'd pop up with a jab of his own, go to the body, you know, like bang, 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 bang. And go up there. So that's where Bruce would be at a disadvantage. You know, Mike would be trying to, you know, go to the body, trying to bang away. Yeah. And Bruce would like come in with like knees and elbows, and then you know, he'd beat him standing up, and then Bruce would eventually get it to the ground, armbar Mike Tyson, crack, fight's over.
Okay, all right. So I was about to say there's a long walk to get there, but you think that Bruce would win it.
Yeah, how do you think the fight would go?
It's funny. I was expecting you might say that Mike would pull it out, and I was going to disagree that no. I think Bruce really does have the upper hand because in a street fight, anything goes, and you know all these extra styles, these extra techniques that he has, you know, it would just work to his advantage a lot more. You know, though I could see how Mike being, you know, more unleashed could just go ham, you know, but I don't know if that would help him. In fact, you know, again, someone who knows all these styles and someone who's who's especially trained in martial arts, you know, probably would hurt him, you know.
Well, yeah, because Bruce was a more well-rounded fighter. I mean, Bruce is, I mean, he knew Wing Chun, you know. I mean, Jeet Kune Do is based off Wing Chun, you know, the whole trapping hands and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, like, well, his thing is, you know, Jeet Kune Do is like based off of like, well, there's wrestling, there's Wing Chun Kung Fu, there's also fencing and boxing as well. Because in fencing, it's like your defense is also your offense. Stop, hit.
Mhm.
So it's like that's what that's again based off the trapping hands, catching the hands, and like if Mike just threw the jab, Bruce like just get him like that.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and plus, I mean, I don't think Bruce's punches would like knock out Mike Tyson, because like Bruce was like 120 some pounds, 126 pounds, and Mike Tyson being two like 200 and something pounds. And on top of that, Bruce's hands were like small too. Like it wouldn't be enough where like he would he would just catch you with that one punch.
Right. But I mean, but isn't part of martial arts, using the the counterweight and the if the opponent's like bigger, using that against them.
Yeah, in a street fight, yeah, but if it was like pure, but if they were just like just throwing just straight boxing punches, I mean, like,
right.
I mean, it'd be enough to where like Mike would get stunned a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But also his hands, like, I mean, Bruce might even hurt his hands on Mike's chin, because that's the other thing, people seem to forget. Mike Tyson had a good chin. I mean, like,
right.
He's got a real good chin. I mean,
right.
he took some punches against Buster Douglas before getting knocked out. I mean, punches that could have knocked him down, and then also in the fight with Lennox Lewis as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've talked before about about how sometimes the best the best strategy is, or the best advantage you have is how well you can take a punch, and yeah, so that's that's a whole other thing, is that if you have the chin for it, and you make a good point, but maybe he would Bruce would hurt his hands, but again, this is a street fight, anything goes, so there's not just the punches, there's the kicks and elbows and everything else.
Yeah, I think if Bruce were I say also like, fights nowadays are like into like, well, I can see Bruce beating Mike Tyson, like if like MMA was still like in the days of like the early days of UFC, where there was like no weight limits and no rounds and shit. But of course, in today, he'd be fighting like in the UFC, he'd be fighting at like like bantam, like bantams and featherweights, and in boxing, he'd be I think he'd be like a featherweight, super featherweight, probably go up as high as super lightweight. Yeah, but no way he would get in a boxing match with a heavyweight. I mean, a heavyweight would knock him out.
Right.
I mean, as good as Bruce had some good boxing, he wasn't like he wasn't a master.
Right, I was about to say, but again, good martial arts as well, which is a whole different thing.
Well, yeah, Jeet Kune Do, I mean, its principles is mixed martial arts. It's a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Right.
Where like Mike Tyson would be the specialist, and Bruce Lee would be the the jack of all trades.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I try and think of Mike. Also, I try and think of him trying to like diversify, and like I said, if he's unleashed and can go ham, I don't know if he could do it as well. Like I try and think of him. I mean, he could throw some elbows, but like
Mike,
kicks and stuff. He
would be limited at kicking, and also he doesn't know any submissions either. So it's like somebody. I mean, he could probably like a wrestler, like go in and like land a double leg, double leg a person, but like but a Hoist Gracie or Vitor Belfort, or or even someone like who else is good at jujitsu? I would even say Renzo Gracie, or BJ Penn. They would wrap him up, they would choke him out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, yep, in a street fight, Bruce Lee wins.
Yep, we're agreed on that.
Yep. So now we're going to get into the deep dive. So, Gabe, what are we talking about for this subject?
All right. So there was this father in Kannapolis, South Carolina. I have the story here. Who was charged with rushing his son's wrestling opponent. So his son was involved in a meet. Kannapolis was involved in a wrestling match. Anyway, he went to jail on a $1,000 bond because his son was taken down, but apparently in an illegal move. So that did piss the dad off. But yeah, instead of letting the refs call it and whatnot, he actually came down from the stands and actually rushed the other kid, and it's unclear whether or not he injured him. My guess is that he might have, but they say it's unclear. But yeah, he decided to fight the other kid himself because he was mad at what happened with in the match with his son.
Yeah. Oh man, that. Yeah, I'm sorry, but if I was the judge, the father would have to do some time.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. It's like, we've talked before kind of about vigilantism and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, we, as much as we can understand where that dad's coming from, and as much as we talk about, how we'd like to believe we'd be prepared in a real life fight or whatever. Like, that's this is not the same thing. You do not take it into your own hands when there's a especially like a high school sports event.
Yeah, what is it about high school sports? It just makes parents and other people crazy. It's like like for example, like I've been watching this. This new show on the USA Network called Dare Me. I don't know if you saw the previews for it.
I think I have.
Yeah, it's about like cheerleaders in high school, and it's and the thing is, it's just like these cheerleader girls. It's like they do drugs, they're drinking, and then there's sex. I mean, some of it is having sex with guys who are like. Who are not in their age limit, and then that sort of thing. And you got the cheerleading coach who's having an affair with a guy who used to go to the high school there. He's like he's like a ROTC type of dude, and then you just look at that and you're just like in high school. I mean, because that's the thing about high school. It's like certain sports are just like. I should say the athletes are just treated like gods there. It's almost like they can get away with anything as long as they're winning.
Right, exactly. Which is, I mean, that's a whole other problem. That is a problem. It's like, and actually I think we've talked a little bit about this too. And with college sports, it's still a problem because there's all these things about
more so about college because like the universities are making money and
they're making money and they get national sports recognition when their athletes play in the divisions and they try and there's all these stories of them trying to make sure that these athletes pass and whatever else so yeah, I mean that's a huge problem, and I don't know what exactly it is about high school sports, but you're right that there is some mania, some hysteria sometimes around it, and maybe because it's a stepping stone to college, maybe it's because it's a stepping stone to this next thing. And I guess they all dream they go pro. That
Yeah,
is part of it. But
oh yeah, exactly. Like for example, like on Sunday I was watching the Aaron Hernandez documentary on.
oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
actually I've seen some of that too.
Oh, really? Have
Hmm.
you seen all the episodes or just
No,
one?
just the first one. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, let me tell you something, man. It's just like, well, wait until you see the other episodes. It's just like this. I mean, it is. I mean, it's even. I mean, what I take from it, also, you also take it from later on the episodes. I don't want to spoil it for you,
Yeah.
but it's even worse when it's the parents. Like
Mm,
I mean, because like also you hear about parents pushing their kids,
yeah.
and then it's like the kids burn out, and then they don't want to do it when they get to college,
Hmm.
and then it's just I mean, like for example, I saw like trophy kids like on HBO, and that documentary made me literally sick to my stomach. I
Mm,
mean, not to the point where I wanted to throw up, but I just felt like rumblings in my stomach, especially when the dad is like there's one dad, he's like pressuring his son in football, and it's just like he's in the car with him and he's just yelling at him because he's like because they're talking about having a girlfriend and stuff, and he's telling him like like, well, the mistakes I made and blah blah blah, and he says, Dad, I just don't want to talk about this anymore. And he goes like, are you out of your mind? You don't end the conversation. I ain't telling you when to end the conversation.
mm,
And
mm.
I'm just like, dude. And I remember
Right.
my mom listening to this. He goes, "Oh, that guy is a jerk." And he's like,
Right.
"It's like yes." And I'm just like, dude, come on, man. This is your son, man.
Hmm.
Fuck.
Exactly. I mean, that's a problem with a lot of things that the parents get too far involved in, and can say that this takes precedence over anything else. The kids want to have these a part of their life. They want to have live their life, and if and that's it can be it can be in academia too, or whatever. But the kids want to be able to live their life, and like you said, a girlfriend or something like that. And yeah, it's I think it's even though there's a future for them, I think it's also bad parenting. To
Yeah, I mean, because the parents don't. I mean, parents just fail to realize no matter how. I mean, no matter how much you train them, how much they do. It's like when you go to. I mean, like their chances are slim to none of ever going pro.
hmm.
I mean, it's like
Exactly.
I mean, just like also like on the show Euphoria with Zendaya. Yeah, I've
Oh
watched that on HBO.
yeah.
One of the characters, he was like in high school. He was a football hero. And then he goes to college and he's on the bench. And then he realizes that he has no chances of ever going pro.
Hmm.
It's like when you get to there's levels.
Yeah,
It's like when you
exactly.
get to let's say if like locally you're a big shit in high school, but if you go to a university and they already have their stars and shit, and you end up being on the bench, you're just another guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean and that's the other thing too, is like, you might feel like you're like, supporting them in something that will be really big, but there has to be a plan B. You can't just push them into that, because, again, the chances of going pro are really, really small. And like you said, especially if they're going into college that already has their star players. So yeah, you have to have a plan B. You can't just say that that's going to be their future. Um, and anyway, so yeah, it's because of stuff like this that parents go crazy. So again, this father in Kannapolis, South Carolina,
Well,
rushed.
wait, the whole. Oh, a second. It says North Carolina.
Sorry, North Carolina, I meant. Yeah. Anyway.
We apologize for people in South Carolina.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. North Carolina. Anyway, the father rushed the rushed the stage, I want to say. But anyway, the father tackled his son's wrestling opponent, and it was between two high schools, and yeah. Anyway, he was the father of one of the athletes, and then rushed his opponent after what he thought was an illegal move against his son. But yeah, anyway, it was processed at the Carabas County Jail, and was got out only on $1,000 bond. I would have made it more, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, the school. Neither of the schools commented, but why would they? But yeah. So like I said, this is basically vigilantism. You thought your son was wronged, but instead of letting the judge take care of it, you rush the other kid.
Yeah, I can imagine. Of course, we all see it in movies. A court case in the South. It's like, do you think that person really? The person who did that to your son, do you think he deserved to get hurt? Yes, he deserved to get hurt, and I hope he burns in hell.
Yeah, I'm sure that's actually what the father would say, but still doesn't mean he should have done it.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, that's Time to Kill. Wait, is it View to Kill or Time to Kill? It's Time to Kill. The Samuel Jackson, Matthew McConaughey movie.
Oh, okay, of course. Yeah, but anyway, that's what happened, and so yeah, it's like that's just another thing of a parent going too far, in these like athlete stories, and yeah, it was. I forget what exactly.
Yeah, and also going back to the documentary.
Oh yeah, if he had injured him, that's what I was gonna say. Like I said, it's unclear if the kid that the father attacked was injured, but if he had, I mean, that's a messy situation.
If I'm the
that's
parent,
fucking sticky.
Yeah, if I'm the parent, I'm like, we are suing him. I want every dollar, every penny, every nickel. I'm gonna make it to the. Well, I don't know if that's a poor place that they're living in North Carolina, but I'll make it so to the point where the only thing he'll be able to buy for food is hot dogs.
Right, exactly.
But getting back also to Trophy Kids documentary, what even made it worse when the dad was yelling at the father is that this, because the father is also like, he played in the NFL, but he wasn't like, he was basically just like a bench warmer. He was just like a journeyman player.
Okay.
So it's like he never really made it to anything. So like, if I'm the father, if I'm the son, I'd be like, what the fuck? You made it to the NFL, but you weren't all that great. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what can you tell me?
Right.
Yeah, you didn't become Emmitt Smith or Dan Marino or anything like that. So it's like, shut your mouth.
Exactly. And I mean, we've talked before on the show about basically a lot of times it's like the parents pushing the kid into what was their dream, you know what I mean? And we talked about that with dance moms and
I remember that episode. That's like the episode we did. Or it's kind of like James Vanderbeek in Varsity Blues. He tells his dad, I don't want your life. It's like, that's what the kid needs to tell the parents. Like, look, I don't want your life. I want my life.
Exactly. And that's part of why they push them so hard, but it's not right. You know what I mean? It's not right to push them so hard for, especially if it was the parents' dream, or if they're trying to compensate for something they never did. Like that father that was just a bench warmer in the NFL. He's probably trying to, he's probably pushing his kid so hard to try and like compensate for what he was not able to achieve, and thinks that his son will be able to do it. But
I mean, I'll give the father this much credit. At least he's still in shape and stuff. But but it's also worse when it's a former athlete who's not in shape and stuff, and it's like you say, like when he goes, no, you get down there and you do 100 push-ups. I'm like, motherfucker, you look like you haven't done a push-up in years. Why don't you get down there and do it?
Exactly.
You fat fuck?
Exactly. So yeah. Anyway, that's the problem with parents pushing their kids too hard, or like going, or in this case, going to bat for their kids in really unhelpful ways. Yeah. If I was that, also if I was that kid, if I was that man's son, and my father rushes my opponent, and then injures him, I'm gonna have to bear like the brunt of that as well. People are gonna be like, it's because of your dad and because of you that this kid is injured. Like I'm gonna be pissed at my father as well.
Yeah. Also, not to mention after school getting your ass whooped.
Probably.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd be pissed at my father. I'd be like, you should have never stepped in, you piece of shit.
Yeah, well, knowing your dad would probably put you through the wall.
True.
By the way, when you were growing up in San Francisco, was there like is there a sport in high school sport in San Francisco that everyone like? Is there like a football? What's the big sport? Football, basketball, or
right?
hockey, or
basketball and football, yeah, are pretty big, yeah.
Yeah. So the high school you went to, like, were the high school football players treated like gods? Like they could just do whatever they want, or
No, not really. No, I went to high school in wine country, so it was very very different than your standard, whatever. So yeah, no, the football players we did. We, especially the circles I was in, we didn't care that much. But there was this one who actually did a 98-yard run and got a touchdown. And that was one of the few games I happened to be there, and it was amazing to watch. So yeah, he got some really good recognition, but
probably fucked a lot of bitches in school, huh?
Probably, yep. I mean, he was actually honored in what's the word, an announcement over the loudspeaker, and stuff like that. So yeah, so he definitely had his moment, and and like I said, that was one of the few games that I really paid attention to. I was like, oh yeah, I was there.
Well, what about the cheerleaders in your school? Was it sort of like the girls in Dare Me? Like, were they always like drinking and like off the field, like always drinking and always like fucking and drugging?
Yeah, I don't think it was like that. No, I mean they would drink definitely, but yeah, I don't think it was quite like that. Like I said, it was it was wine country. It was not as exciting for sports, as maybe San Francisco itself, or certainly not as LA.
So yeah, that's the thing. I mean, cheerleaders thing, because like high school cheerleaders also treated like gods too, and stuff. So it's like also like in that remember that story, the Fab Five, the five cheerleaders in Texas. Like they were like they did that one thing where they did a video or like a photo, like they were in like a porno shop. They were underage and they were in their uniforms and like making like they were dominatrix or something. So yeah, they actually did a Lifetime movie on that with Jenna Dewan.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, you should see it, man. It's actually one of my favorites.
Yeah,
they're like pump it up, pump that. Also, one of the girls they had Ashley. I think her name is Ashley Green, the one from the Twilight movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ashley Benson, or I think whatever. But it was I mean, like you see these girls, and like these girls, like they have no boundaries. There's no I mean, oh geez. I mean, what do you think your mom would do if your sisters like acted like those cheerleaders?
Yeah, no, my mom would not have it. She would lock them up or something. I don't know what she'd try and do to get them under control.
Yeah,
but my sisters would never. But yeah. Anyway, it's kind of, yeah. You're right. It's kind of like that. And like, yeah, for those types of schools, it really, it's kind of a problem that they're larger than life. But yeah, you just have to kind of look past that. It's kind of like what was that movie, American Beauty? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like that when you look There's that one that one cheerleader who's like seems like she's queen bitch, but yeah, you look past it, and she actually hasn't done like any of the things that she says, and yeah, there's a lot, there's not more to her, but there's a lot more to her friend who's not even part of the cheerleaders.
Give me a P. Give me a U. Give me an S. Give me another S. Give me a Y.
Mhm.
What's that spell? Jailbait.
Oh, this guy is ridiculous.
Well, also there's this one actress. She's a black girl. She looks mixed. I mean, she's jack offable. I think she's the legal age though. I mean, she plays a high school teenager, but I think she looks around 19, maybe early 20-ish.
Mhm.
Actually, I mean, the girls you look at, it's like, I'm like, should I be masturbating? Should I not be masturbating to these?
Exactly. Oh, that's a whole other subject. A whole other subject that there's all these teen movies, but like most of the time the actors are older than that, or at least you would hope, and because they're so sexualized, in the movie.
Oh yeah, Lindsay Lohan and
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls.
Mean
Oh,
Girls
geez.
coming to Broadway in Boston.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, too bad you can't jack off in the theater.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the actresses
be like, I don't know
security,
him.
get him out of here, please.
Exactly. I was like, well, never mind. I'm not going to invite you because I don't. I'd be like, I don't know him.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the last round, and in the last round, doing my review of the Sonny Liston documentary that came out on Showtime. Of course, Sonny Liston, former heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
This guy was like was Mike Tyson before Mike Tyson. I mean, he's an intimidator. I mean, he was a heavy puncher. He could knock guys out. I mean, in fact, in one of his looking at his boxing record here.
Yeah.
When he was there's this one guy he fought, Wayne Betha. Wait, hold on a second. I got it right here. This is on my new cell phone right here. Wait, I just passed the fucking thing. Shit.
Okay.
Oh yeah, here it is. Wayne Betha. He knocked him out in one round, but here's the thing. I heard he knocked. They say that he knocked all 5 of his teeth out.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Sonny Liston was intimidating. Like he could intimidate you with his stare, and
yeah,
he knocked out Floyd Patterson twice.
Mm.
In fact, actually, Cus D'Amato, when Cus was training and managing him, he didn't want Floyd to beat Sonny. He didn't think Floyd could beat him.
Really?
Yeah, and also Sonny actually fought on the undercard of Floyd Patterson's fight with Tim McNeely, who, of course, would train his son, Peter McNeely, to fight Mike Tyson.
Okay.
Yeah, and Tyson destroyed him.
Right.
And Sonny Liston, man, he was intimidator. Although he did lose one fight. He lost the fight to Marty Marshall, but that was like earlier when he first started.
Okay.
And plus, it wasn't. He wasn't really Sonny wasn't really being televised all that well, and then he beat him 2 more times in rematches, and it was when he started moving up in the ranks and beating guys like Cleveland Williams and Zora Foley and Eddie Manchin that he eventually became a star and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, would eventually lose to Muhammad Ali, then Cassius Clay in the first fight, when Ali would, I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, if you're going to lose to someone, though, Ali's the guy.
Yeah, but Sonny Liston, man, I mean, he had a rough upbringing, too. I mean, because, like, he was, he grew up on a farm, and his father would whip him, with a whip to get him to do to make him work harder in the fields.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he had like marks on his back and shit. He whipped him like with a real whip, like a whip like you would use on horses. Yeah, he would.
Shit.
Yeah, it's like, fuck, dude.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess he used that. I mean, that's the thing. We talk a lot about different fighters like upbringing and stuff, and when they have it really down, in their upbringing, they definitely use that,
Yeah, and
later on.
Yeah, but it led to bad stuff because like Sonny would also get into, because around this time, this is when blacks, this is like during the Jim Crow era, and Sonny Liston, like growing up around there, like he would get in trouble, and he actually started boxing when he was in jail, and then he got released, and he was actually working for the mob too.
Really?
Yeah, Frankie Carbo, who he was one of the mafia people that was involved in boxing, because the mob was involved in boxing around the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and Sonny actually worked as like a leg breaker for the mob too. Yeah, so but even though he was in the mob, he still had to like earn victories and stuff like that. There was no fixed fights and what have you.
Yeah, exactly. As I was saying, it's more like the financiers, like the mobs were financing it, which would make sense because they would finance any profitable business around, you know what I mean, or enterprise. So yeah, the liquor, especially during Prohibition, and cigarettes and drugs, and then yeah, it would only make sense to get into to boxing as well.
Well, yeah, and also let's see what else I was going to say. And also Sonny, even when he was a boxer, he was getting harassed by the police officers, and he actually beat up a police officer one time, took his gun, pistol whipped him.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, man. He had to move
serious trouble with that.
Yeah, he had to move around a lot too because of it. He moved from Denver to Philadelphia, and then Las Vegas, which is where he would eventually die. But also, like Sonny Liston, as heavyweight champion, he wasn't really all appreciated. He wasn't like really put on a pedestal or anything like that. Like he was feared and stuff like that. But it's like Black Americans didn't really embrace him because he wasn't really with the civil rights movement, because they thought of him as someone who was. Because like black athletes, like your Jackie Robinsons, your Floyd Pattersons, your Joe Lewises, and Bill Russells and stuff. But Sonny Liston was seen more as someone who's, because he like got in trouble with the law and stuff. So it's like, he wasn't revered in that way. In fact, actually, when he won the heavyweight championship, he thought that he came back and thought there was going to be a parade, people waiting for him at the airport, and there was nobody there.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. It's one that kind of problematic thing where they like you said, they expect them to be more more like they look down on you as well if you're not law abiding, because it's like they feel like you're making a bad name for the rest of them. But they want to put the people that are law abiding and doing good fights or good athletes up on that pedestal. But yeah, that is kind of a problem, because it's also I can imagine very hard to be law abiding back then as well.
Oh yeah, and also like the two fights with Muhammad Ali really did. It was kind of the beginning of the end. He lost the first fight. Losing on his stool because from what he claims was a shoulder injury.
Okay.
But he was losing the fight to Ali anyways. I mean, Ali was just like tearing apart. And then the second fight they have it in.
He's still proving that he's one of the best.
Well, yeah. Well, this was a young Ali before. This is when Ali won his first title.
Okay.
And then Ali beats him in the rematch, the Phantom Punch, and everyone thought it was a fix, and stuff like that. But then afterwards, I mean, Liston would go on. He would still fight. He fought a lot. He went on and fought, and then he lost a fight to Leotis Martin.
Okay.
And yeah, Martin knocked him out in the 9th round. I mean, that was like the first time like Sonny and Liston had ever been knocked out. And but that was bad for Martin too, because during the fight he had a broken orbital bone, and he retired after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was a bitch for him too. It's like, wow, you pull off one of the biggest upsets in boxing, and then you have to quit because during the fight you break your orbital bone.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that must have sucked big time.
Oh yeah, definitely big time. And Sonny Liston's last fight was on June 29th, 1970 at the National Guard Armory in New Jersey. And he loses to Chuck Wepner. Chuck Wepner, of course, would go on years later to fight Ali. That was the fight that inspired the first Rocky movie.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, well, Chuck Wepner, he was known as the because he's from Bayonne, New Jersey, and he was known as the Bayonne Bleeder. In fights he would bleed and shit like that, and he got cut. He got like 2 cuts and stuff like that, and then they stopped the fight. Yeah, and plus around that time, like Sonny Liston, he was like doing cocaine. He was also drug dealing as well. Yeah, he was living in Vegas, and he lived on the seamy side of Las Vegas, he had a house in like the glamorous parts, and then moved to where it was more like ghetto and stuff like that. In fact, actually, he was friends with Red Rodney, who was a former jazz musician. Yeah, in the bebop era, he played with Charlie Parker, and of course by that time, Red Rodney was like a heroin addict, and he was dealing heroin and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if you're, I can imagine back then, in Las Vegas, if you end up being in those circles, then it would be pretty hard to stay out of the drug scene.
Well, Las Vegas around that time, like that was also sort of controlled by the mafia as well. Right. I mean, you saw the movie Casino, right? Yeah. So it was around that time, like 60s, and I mean, of course, you had like Frank, Sammy, and Dean, and all those guys, but there was still a side of it that was still dirty and all that. But and also the boxing matches were moving out to Vegas too. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this plenty of times on Ringside. It's like I think it really boxing became big time for Vegas in like the late 70s and in the 80s, and to what we have today. I mean, like
exactly.
Yeah, I mean today, because it's all like corporate and stuff like that, it's like no way would the mafia ever have a foot in Las Vegas gambling or boxing.
Yeah, and I mean, and they've been trying to make it a lot more family friendly and whatnot. The entire city, the entire scene. So it's very very different than it would have been. But I can imagine that back then, it was much more like much more.
Go to Vegas and have your son get his first blowjob.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a whole funny part of this song on Family Guy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember.
A man can mingle the scores with the seediest whores, and his children can too.
Yeah.
But anyway, So it was a lot more seedy, a lot more adults only, back then, and so and less rules, so
yeah, and also in the mafia and boxing, they'd have like fighters take dives, like or have the fighters like carry their opponents. Like you also saw that in Raging Bull too, right? Raging Bull as well, and they told Jake like, hey, look, Jake, we want you to go, just go down, and he's like, look, I don't go down for anybody. I don't go down. I don't lay down for anybody.
Right.
And it, and and the thing is, I mean, of course, when I look at boxing back in those days, like 40s and 50s and like the early 60s, those old black and white films and shit, like I don't really think about the mafia or anything like that. I mean, I know it's part of its history, and
Yeah.
there's actually been some movies on it. There's one movie I have called Kid Gallahan, with Edward G. Robinson. It's a great movie, and there's also City of Conquest with James Cagney as well. That's
Okay.
another great movie.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I just really think about those old times where people would be like, would come to the fights, or some reels would be smoke filled, cigar smoke,
Yeah,
cigarette smoke, and
exactly,
then
exactly. I mean, that's the other thing, an old down homey scene with all the smoke in the room. Yeah.
yeah, and then you see like, and then of course, but looking at that, it's like, just the black and white films and like people getting dressed up for fights and
Hmm.
like you see like of course Frank and Dean and Sammy, those guys be watching the fights, and
Yeah.
you see all those guys like you saw like Marciano and Robinson and Rocky Graziano, Tony Zale, and Tony DeMarco, and
Yeah.
Jersey
Yeah.
Joe Walcott,
Totally.
all those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, of course, Sonny Liston as well, because we're talking about Sonny Liston.
Yeah.
But, boxing in those days, I mean, that's sort of a rich era. It's, the black, and in fact, I actually did episodes on it for the Beer and Brawl show, the black and white boxing, series.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, I mean, in fact, that's what when we were trying to do ringside, we were trying to create like, remember when we tried to create like a theme song? We wanted to create like a jazz theme song for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the people from Mad Men would definitely dig that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be there with their martinis and Jack
Hmm.
Daniels.
Hmm. And their best suits. Yeah, I was thinking though about the whole suit thing, like, and the dresses for the ladies. Like, it's like, what if there really was blood and sweat splattering? Like, I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, I can imagine. Well, I can imagine Christina Hendricks' character would be like, "What the fuck?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. I am out of here.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. How would January Jones's character probably react?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see. See, I thought you meant January Jones, but yeah.
Yeah, no,
Anyway.
Christina. I can. Well, wait, Christina Hendricks' character. She seems more like a tough cookie, so I think she'd probably handle it. Actually,
Yeah, yeah, she'd be good, but yeah, January wouldn't be would not have
yeah,
it.
the
She'd be
typical
out of
housewife.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about Peggy?
yeah. No, Peggy would hang.
Oh yeah.
Peggy would hang for anything. That's what I really liked about her. It's half her show. It's half her show and half Draper's. Yeah, and like, the way she really, rises up is just by following Draper's lead. And so whatever, she always asks him, how does this go? And she's able to hang with the guys, based on what he says.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And of course, there's always a mystery and rumors about Sonny's death because they said they found heroin in his. There was heroin and stuff when the police found him. There was balloons of heroin, even
mhm.
though they said Sonny was always afraid of needles. So it was ruled as natural causes, and we'll never find out the true death of him. But
So
Sonny
one of
was.
those enduring mysteries as well.
Yeah, but Sonny Liston, as far as great punchers, great knockout artists, he's really up there with the Dempseys, the Marcianos, and Joe Louis, and really paved the way for George Foreman. Actually, sparred work with George Foreman. When George was coming out of the Olympics,
Yeah.
and then of course, yeah, we paved the way for the George Foremans and Mike Tysons, Tim Witherspoons, and the David Tuas, and all the other people. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So,
So,
let's see. Yeah, we're
yeah, we
past
should
50
we should
minutes.
wrap
Yeah,
it up.
let's wrap it up. All right, guys.
All right.
That's it. We're gonna try and do a show next week.
Yep.
Other than that, we're gonna be going on hiatus soon because Gabe has a new job.
Yep.
So we'll let you know what's to come in the future.
All
And
right.
also shout out to to Primo who's watching this. Hey, Primo, what's up?
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So from Beantown to your
town.
town, this is Beantown, Beatdown. Matthew Burris.
James Thomas.
Go 49ers.
Woo!